everyone. Welcome. We are just going to get started as soon as everyone enters the room. We're so happy to have you here today. I know my brain is ready for some learning and exercise and new ways of thinking. Hopefully, this is all going to be so helpful to you. Um, as a little bit of when we get started, we'll wait just a few moments for everyone to get in here and join. But while we're starting, I just want to say across the bottom of your screen, you will see that there is a chat function, but also a Q&A function. The Q&A is where if you have a question or a comment that you would like for us to read and address, then please put your information in that Q&A chat space. And if you want to say hello in there just to practice, please feel welcome. I'd love to hear where you're joining us from today. It would be kind of fun to see how many different time zones we have represented. And we'll be able to see your questions there. And so I am excited to hear what you might have to say in your practicing of, oh, welcome, Fritz from Uruguay, wonderful, Bangladesh. Oh my goodness. Welcome, welcome. So glad to see everyone. I am here from the West Coast of the US. And I work at CG Spectrum. We are hosting this event today in partnership with BrainWorx. And I am so excited to hear everything that they have to share. So let's see. We'll wait a few more minutes just to get everybody in. At CG Spectrum, I'm just going to start the intro a little bit to get to give us more time for other folks to join in. But keep putting where you're from and say hello in the Q&A so that we can make sure that everyone knows how to use it for all the great questions you might want to share. So my name is Holly. She, her are my pronouns. And I have been a lawyer for, it'll be 12 years next month. But I can't give you advice because I'm only a lawyer in Oregon in the United States. But before law, I have degrees in costume design for theater and psychology. So a little bit of creativity and a lot of fascination about people and how their brains work. So it's a natural match for me to be a career coach. And so that is what I have transitioned to from being an attorney. And I'm starting my 6th year as being a full-time coach of people, helping you figure out what your dreams are. So if you were to join CG Spectrum, then I would be delighted to help you with preparing materials, what your job strategy would be, what your dreams are like. And then if you have time management concerns, focus concerns, that sort of thing, I also talk with you about that, which is another reason why I'm so excited to learn more about the skills and abilities that BrainWorx are going to show us today, because I think we all can appreciate having tools in our toolbox for when life gets tricky and we have troubles with anxiety or focus or being open to our creativity. So that is the focus that we are going to have today. We're going to take about 90 minutes today for this program. And it's going to be a live workshop where Alma's going to take us through over 25 years of experience, exploration, understanding of different ways of thinking to open up your mind and be as successful as you can. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end, but you are also welcome to put your questions in the Q&A as we proceed. There's no reason for you to hold the question. You can put it in there and we will either answer it right away or save it to the end based on what helps us to get the best information out there to you. And then at the end, we'll also share some links about how you can keep in touch with CG Spectrum if you like this, or with BrainWorx to learn more about what they do and how they do it. Just a little bit about our school. We are doing a series of webinars this month for Mental Health Awareness Month. So this is totally different than our usual curriculum, which is focused on art and online work for animation, digital painting, game development, VFX. So video games and films and television all across the world, across 90 countries. And we have 170 industry mentors who are working in the field, who work alongside you to help you, welcome you into the industry and get you the skills you need to be an artist in the industry and achieve your goals and dreams. So everything we do is online. So it fits around your schedule, but there are a lot of interaction and in-person things. So we have all different categories of classes that you can take. And this is just, so here's a photo. I can let you look over this at your leisure. The most important thing for you to remember is that our school is focused on getting you where you want to be in life. And to that end, your mental health is important to us, not just your professional goals. And so this is the kickoff for us for Mental Health Awareness Month and an offering to the public related to our wonderful connection with BrainWorx. So I would love to introduce Alma at this point. Alma Galvan is one of the founders of BrainWorx. And so Alma, I'm just going to let you take it from there and put it in your capable hands for the next 90 minutes. And you just let me know if I can do anything to support you. But other than that, welcome. We are thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much, Holly. I will take it on. Let's go. Hello, everyone. And I just want to say welcome to everyone. We at BrainWorx are so excited. I am so excited to be able to share a tiny bit of what I wish I would have known. Oh my gosh, way back when I was a young one, when I was in school, when I was even a young adult, I wish I would have known what I'm going to share with you today. And more importantly, I want you to experience what some of these movements because in BrainWorx, we're all about movement. Everything is about movement because movement is our first language. And so when we understand movement and when we understand what our body is sharing with us, we can then do something to help our body to then be able to help our brain work in the best possible way. So in BrainWorx, we always start with a movement. And like I said, we're going to go through 3 movements in these 90 minutes. 90 minutes are going to go really fast. But the movements will allow us to get in the best possible place at this moment so that then you can hear what is needed for you. What would you be best with what I'm going to share? What will you be able to take that will be beneficial for you? That's my intention for you. So our intention together is I am able to hear what I need to hear for me, for you. And so we always then couple an intention with a movement. And so one of my favorite movements is something that will allow me to turn on my brain, allow me to turn on my ears so I can hear better. And so let's go through that. I'm going to do a pre and post activity so you could feel it in your body. I'm so bummed I can't see you guys, but I can see Holly and Lynn. By the way, Lynn is like my right-hand person in BrainWorx. She is incredible. And so she'll be she'll be here and talking to you guys on the chat, and then we'll have a conversation after as well. So let's do one of my favorite movements. It's called thinking ears. Because what do I need our ears for? Everything. So let's go ahead and just get comfy. Take a breath. And turn your head as far as you can to one side, whichever side. And I want you to notice, what does your body feel like at this moment? What is it sharing with you? Do you feel any tension in your shoulders, your back, your neck? And listen to the sound of my voice. What does it sound like? And then turn to the opposite side and note as well. Notice what kind of tension or anything that's catching your awareness that your body is sharing at this moment. And then we'll do it again after we do this movement. So thinking ears goes like this. We're going to take our pincher fingers and we're going to go up to the top where our ears are connected to our head. And we're going to do like a gentle massage. So it's like a little pinch and uncurl, pinch and uncurl as we work our way all the way on the outer part of our ear. So it's just a sweet little massage. And take a breath. When you get down to the very bottom, to the earlobe, I'll explain why in a minute, you're going to do a little extra love, extra tug. And we're going to do this 3 times. So go all the way up to the top again. Take a breath. And our intention is, I am able to hear what I need to hear for me. So that way, you don't have to like stress. What do I need? I have to pay attention. No, just what you need to hear will be heard. And then extra loud, let's do one more time. This time go a little deeper into the ear, activating even more area of your ear. I am able to hear what I need to hear for me. Beautiful. Extra love, extra tug. And that's it. That is it. 30 seconds, roughly. So let's go ahead and check what this little 30 seconds, what these little movements did for us at this moment. So take a breath and turn your head and notice. I always have to smile because every single time I do this, I feel a difference. But notice for you, do you notice any shifting in maybe a little less tension in your shoulders, your back, your neck? Listen to the sound of my voice. Is it maybe sounding a little bit more crisp, a little bit more clear? And then turn to the opposite side and notice this as well. Is there even a slight shift in how you felt after doing this movement? Do you feel anything, Holly? Yeah. Go ahead and write in the chat for everybody else. Write in the chat me if you notice even a tiny bit, because I'm going to explain why.
My whole back is just calmer. I can feel, and I feel ready to hear things, if that makes any sense.
Of course. It makes perfect sense. That's why we're going to talk about this. And I see quite a few people putting me. That's crazy. I know. So let me explain, because one of the things that I love is that it's not just enough for me to show you, okay, do this. Okay. No, I want you to know why you're doing it. Because if you know what you're doing it, all of a sudden you're going to be more likely to be able to do it more and more. And especially because it takes 30 seconds. It takes 30 seconds. And again, when do we need to have our ears be able to be accessible? All the time. And we don't really realize where we go off track, and we're then pushing with much, much, much more power, with more work to do what could take less work, less power, and more productivity, because that's ultimately what we're going to talk about. How do you become so much more productive and more joyful in what you're doing in life? That's what excites me. So let's talk about thinking ears. Thinking ears has to do with this. There's a sequence of actions, of reactions really, but actions that happen when my brain thinks it's in danger. There's the sequence that just turns on, like, and it's a millisecond, really, it's milliseconds that happens. And then all of a sudden, my brain will go into letting my body think that or my body kind of goes the same way. I'm in danger. I'm in trouble. Doesn't matter if I really am or not. My brain just needs to perceive that it is in danger. And then we go into fight or flight, freeze, or collapse. One of those parts is called a tendon guard reflex. This reflex is beautiful because if I am in trouble, my body is going to, all the weight is going to go to the balls of my feet. My knees are going to lock. My calf muscles are going to contract. My first and second vertebra will lock. And in this position, I'm ready to run or I'm ready to fight, whatever it is I really need to do if I am in danger. Beautiful. When my first and second, I have to sigh, because guess what? When that happens, my first and second vertebra locking, it takes away my peripheral vision. Now I have no peripheral vision. I am in tunnel vision because my brain thinks I'm in trouble. So details don't matter. Or do they? They do. But in fight or flight, it doesn't matter. My ears are now only attuned to threatening sounds. So if I'm going to be in a conversation, I'm not going to hear the whole thing. Ranges will not be able to be picked up by the brain because I'm in survival mode. Beautiful, like I said, if I do have a saber-toothed tiger coming at me, okay, there's no more of those. But if I have a bus that's going to hit me, I want to be able to have my brain hijack everything to keep me alive. Because for a human being, there is nothing more important than to survive. Nothing. Nothing. And so when that happens, then we really are going to be in a state of, I'm going to survive this. When we do thinking ears, then thinking ears is activating acupressure points. So many of them that then all of a sudden, one of the best things is that it releases the first and second vertebra, giving me now peripheral vision, giving me now the ability to hear different ranges in such a simple way. Come on. Isn't that like just like beautiful? Like we just like that, 30 seconds, and it releases so much within our body because of those acupressure points that are being stimulated, that are being activated, so that then we can be in a much more organized, more integrated, more aware, and more present state. And that's why it was really crazy. It's like, in 30 seconds, all of that, it's pretty wild. So I do thinking ears all the time. And that's one of the reasons why, in BrainWorx, like I said, it's all about movement. So where can we weave in these movements to help us stay alert, to stay more focused, more calm, more productive, more connected, all of that. So I do it when I take a shower. I do it do different movements at different lights, when I'm like in a red light. Excuse me, sorry about that. When I'm at a red light, I'm always doing something, because why not? It's dead time that's just there waiting for us to go. So different ways that we can then just start activating our ears. 30 seconds. We really only need to do 3 times, and that's it. And that's it. And the more that we do it, the easier it is for our brain to then just get more integrated, easier, faster. And for me, it's one of the fastest ways to get out of fight or flight. My business partner, Bob, is our co-founder of BrainWorx. He talks about this, one of the years, really early on when we became business partners, he lost his mom, he lost his brother, all within like a year. It was crazy. And so he kept having these anxiety attacks that he's like, I've never had anxiety attacks. What is this? So he would end up in the ER and they're like, no, everything is fine. It's like, no, but there's like, his anxiety had just gone skyrocket, with rightly so, right? And there's one of the times that he's like in the emergency parking lot and he's like, wait a minute, Alma's talking about this stuff. So he started doing thinking ears, and interestingly enough, a little at a time, all of a sudden he's like, wait, if I need to go, I can go in. But if I don't, they're just going to tell me it's anxiety again. And thinking ears got him out of that state that he was experiencing. So when can you do it? Anytime that you have this desire to calm your body, to integrate your body and your brain. That's thinking ears. Isn't that cool? So simple. So very quickly, go ahead.
And there was a follow-up question about hearing about fight, flight, or freeze, and then about collapse.
Yes, welcome to our world nowadays. Collapse has been lately, I'm seeing it more and more. So there's fight, flight, freeze. It's like the deer in the headlights. And collapse is when the system has been in this state for extended periods of time, and no system, none of our brain or our body is ever meant to have stayed in this state for extended period of time. I'm seeing that much, much more after 2020. Anybody know what happened then? After then, I started seeing much more of our clients coming in that were like, whoa. And so we in BrainWorx, we're all about gentle and about really allowing our sisters to come back online in the best possible way. And if we do things gently, it allows us to reboot. Because coming from even freeze, you can't just like get back into a safe brain state. It just doesn't happen like that. This helps. This allows us to get out of fight or flight and allows us to start getting into more of an integrated state. But collapse is a new one that is now, it's not a new one, but it is now more and more seen. So great question. So I'm just going to talk just a tiny bit about myself, because you can go on our website and see more an extended version of why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I truly feel so honored and privileged and happy to share. Anyone that will listen, if they want to make their life a little better, more manageable, more doable, I wish I would have learned this from the very beginning, like I said. And I felt like I'm talking to you guys, creative people, and I'm like going like, oh, I'm so excited that you guys picked this avenue just to express yourself. I thought as a young adult, I had it all figured out. I thought I was going to become a computer programmer, because back then computers didn't speak back. And so I liked that kind of leave me alone attitude, that just like, I just want to go through life and just leave me alone. And so a computer programmer felt like that's my deal. And interestingly though, life sometimes does not go the way that we think it ought to go. And so I got married, and shortly after that I had kids. My first kiddo though, well, had some challenges because of trauma in utero. Now looking back, we all have some kind of trauma that has happened in utero, because there's so much shifting that has happened in our world. We all have something that I call gaps in our development. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but I'm going to give you the short version. Short version truly is that I ended up with two boys that had significant challenges. Like, they both didn't speak until after 6 years old. And what got me back then was, I really thought, okay, my kids have challenges, but they're going to tell me what to do, right? And so I talked to two different doctors. Well, I talked to many doctors, but two specifically ones that they're like, your oldest one, he's really severe. You already have a baby. You need to consider putting him in an institution. What? At 3 years old, I was a young mom, and I thought that doctors had solutions. And so I'm like, this is not even possible. Like, at 3 years old, you're asking me to consider that for my kiddo? Yes, I know. It's a mess. Like, everything's a mess. He had tantrums that were like 2 hours long. If I blinked, he was on top of the roof. If I didn't have him close to me and held by his hand, he's bolting always. And my heart stopped many times. Many times it was like, he's in the middle of traffic, and I'm like, oh. And in just a blink of an eye. So I was a hot mess. Life was hard. And that was the solution that they had. And I'm like, and so after I got out of my pity party, I'm like, there's got to be something else. And so I started researching and searching like a mad woman, and trying everything that possibly could just come my way that I could afford. And the thing that just kept coming back to me was like, there's got to be a way, and show me. And that's why I'm here showing you what I wish somebody would have showed me. What I'm going to teach you today is massive, that I wish, like I said, every single teacher, doctor, therapist should know about before they even start their practice. And it's not there. It's not readily out there. And that's where you feel my fire, that it's like, dang, we're missing the boat. Our kiddos are being misunderstood. You are misunderstanding yourself. Because if we don't understand the big picture, if we don't understand development, then we make up stories. Oh yeah, I'm lazy. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. No, No. So I learned that by all these therapies that I did with my children, none of them were really working. None of them were really giving us any kind of relief. And looking back, it was because all these therapies, they're good therapies. The thing is, they started way too advanced in their development. They were so underdeveloped that they just couldn't take in what was being shared, what was being given to them. So as years went by, this is not a little, oh, in a few months, I got to figure it out. No, it literally took me trial and error, doing all kinds of things. And then around 7 years, something popped in that I was like, what? I was crying my eyes out to a friend, and I was like, I don't know what to do. It's like nothing is working. Life is getting harder. Everyone's actually just pointing the finger that it's like, it's your parenting skills. If you did this and that, and it's like, why don't you walk in my shoes? It's not the same to see somebody and just like, oh, you should do this. Oh, sure. And I'm sure we've all kind of been in certain cases that you're like, yeah, no, it's not that simple. Not that simple. So one of my friends, she's like, you got to talk to this teacher. She wasn't even a teacher in my district. She's like, you got to talk to a teacher. I don't know what she does, but you should talk to her. And this teacher tuned me into something that's called brain gym. Brain gym. Brain gym are simple movements. Thinking caps is what they called it. I do something different with thinking, and that's why I call it thinking ears. But I give credit to brain gym because they are amazing at sharing some simple movements. But then what my brain did, because of all the research that I've done in the brain, I like cherry on top. How can we get the most out of these simple movements with the least amount of time, least amount of effort? So it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I am driven to get the most out of life and have the most joy that we possibly can for the energy and the time that we're going to invest. So brain gym, all of a sudden the teacher's like, do these movements. Oh yeah. And I started doing those movements, and within like a week and a half, 2 weeks max, I started feeling like for the very first time, the edge was taken off. Like there was something different. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but there was something that was calmer in my home that I was like, what is this? And so I kept doing these movements. And the beautiful thing, I'm so lucky, is that I had to do these movements with my kiddos because they wouldn't do them by themselves. They couldn't do them by themselves. So I had to play games. And every day we were doing these movements. And I felt like, oh my God, for the very first time I could breathe. And kept doing them. And into about maybe 3 months or so, I'm like, oh, wait, but if I don't do them, we can revert back to having like 2-hour meltdowns. And I say we, because we acclimate, we actually co-regulate to the strongest energy in the room. So if you can imagine, the strongest energy was not me. Strongest energy, a huge amount of the time, were my kids. And they were not calm. So I would be having meltdowns internally, and sometimes, not proud to say it, but externally too. Because when we don't know what to do, we lose it. It's just being real. And so I went back to this teacher and I'm like, okay, but this is fantastic, but I have to be doing this all the time, right? And she's like, well, oddly enough, interestingly enough, I came across this research that they were talking about something really amazing, Alma. It's called neurological reorganization. What is that? And so she's like, neurological, this other piece that this teacher tuned me into. It's basically going back, and that's what I'm going to talk to you, the majority of what we're going to do in a little bit. Neurological reorganization, basically, it was Domen Delicato that in the 50s did research with brain injured children. Think about that, in the 50s, and we're like, what? And it's still not really out? Come on. So every cell in my body said, like, I can't, but like, it felt so right. It felt so real. Like, it gave me such hope. It excited me massively, more than anything ever. Brain Gym was great, but this made such sense to me that it's like what they did, they discovered that if they go back to the very beginning of life and they mimic what some of the movements that the baby would do, that all of a sudden the children that had these brain injuries, they could do certain tasks that they shouldn't be able to do because of their brain injuries. Now, I think it was like 1993, 91, something like that. Well, it was at least 25 years ago. Science said that the brain was hardwired after 30. No, that's the furthest thing from the truth. The brain has the capacity to change throughout our whole entire life. It has this, now it's known, right? But back then it really wasn't. The brain has a plasticity effect. So we can rewire the brain. We can reshape certain things in the brain. And going back for me, it made so much sense. It's like movement. It's our origin. We all evolved from movement, even in utero. Movement created us. So it felt so good. Like, oh my God, you mean life may possibly turn out differently? So it was hard to really go down that path with neurological reorganization, not having a true path. So it was a lot of trial and error. So for huge amount of working with my children, myself, and thousands of members, clients, it's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to really get to the point to understand what is it that we can do, that we don't tax our system and make gains a little at a time so our brain truly can have a different way of working. It's possible. It's another door of possibility that I'm like, oh, that is so exciting to me. So my kiddos now, they're 30. They're probably older than most of you. They're 32. My oldest is 32 and the other one is 29. And they both have jobs. They have, the kiddo that is supposed to be in an institution, he has a girlfriend. He built himself. Oh, you would love this. He built himself. He transformed we have a carport. And so he transformed this carport with his own money to a studio. So he has a green screen. He does claymation. Maybe we can share some of the claymation at the end if we have time. So he does several, he has projects for us in BrainWorx using claymation. And you guys know how much time, energy, and patience it takes to do claymation. He did this one specific, this one project that it took him over, I think it was like 1,500 pictures to do this 1 3-minute video. But you guys get this. So those are my kids. So they motivate me. They're not my kids. They're like these really beautiful men now that we get to share life and we get to know each other in a whole different way. And I attribute that 100% to the work that I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to share with you a slide deck. But before we go there, I'd like to ask you guys one question. What is one of the biggest challenges that you're having? Just as a student, as a person, it doesn't matter because it's woven in, right? So what are some of the challenges that you're having? Like, I know that when I talk to especially adults, it's like an overwhelm, like I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious, because this will allow me to zero in a little bit more clear in what I'm going to share with you. So if you can put in the chat or not, there you go. How to focus better, procrastination, and demotivation, focus,
overstimulation from social media and other sources. It's crazy. Sitting down to draw. I know I should do it to improve, but I'm not that good at it. And I already know it won't be good. So I don't do it, etc. It's a good one to put in there. Prioritizing. among too many tasks, overwhelm, anxiety, demotivation, procrastination, definitely procrastinating and ADHD, procrastination, anxiety about threat from daily stresses rather than saber-tooth tiger. I have good ideas, but anxiety prevents me to start. Demotivation, procrastination.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you
Well,
for sharing.
yes, absolutely. So I'm going to take a wild guess here, but by the time I'm done, you're going to have a different view of yourself. And especially with those people that are saying like, I can't get started, I'm not motivated. We'll circle back to it once I share what I'm going to share. So let's start. Let me bring my I was going to go back to this one. So I love this topic that Holly and Zoe picked, optimizing your brain to boost, or I think it was me, I don't know, it doesn't matter, to boost your creativity. Oops. There we go. My computer. We were talking about computers, Holly. There it is. So let's go back to the very beginning, because I want you guys to get the full picture of what it is that we're really going to paint here. Now, primitive reflexes, we all start with a bang. Did you see that? Those are the fireworks that happen. And then all of a sudden there's these little beautiful movements that are called reflexes. Reflexes are automatic instinctual movements that are necessary to grow and to survive, actually, as well. They develop and emerge in utero, and they continue developing into the first year of life and assisting not just with the birth process, but also that first few, first year of life. These are really absolutely needed movements to be able to then have a sequence that then will guide us to development. And as we are in this world now, as we're in this beautiful world of ours, there's these instinctual movements will guide us to develop two parts of the brain specifically that we're going to talk about today. Now, there's other things that are going on, but specifically for our purposes, the foundational pieces that will allow us to gain more abilities, more functions to be able to do life easier. So one is called the pons. It's in blue. And the pons, I never even heard of the pons before. When I heard pons, I'm like, it's like that where those ducks are. No, not pond, pons. So, and the other one is the midbrain. The midbrain is, obviously you can see a little bit further up. The pons is the first part that gets activated, that gets developed after we're in this beautiful world. And the pons typically develops from 0 to 5 typically. Now, sometimes it could vary. It could go a little bit more, not less. It cannot be developed in less time, but it could be developed in more time, depending on if a child had trauma, if there was difficulty in the birthing process, if there was sequence of developments that might have gotten skipped over, like if we had a C-section, that would skip a lot of reflexes. That would create little gaps in the development, which then would need more neuro time, more movement to help the baby bridge these gaps. And even in, like I said before, when we first started, even in utero, we all have gaps. And let me explain why I say that. One of the things that happened is that when our mother was stressed, she would then disperse chemicals. We all do, right? You have chemicals that then will allow us to be able to survive. The thing is, as a baby, as a fetus, like, I don't want to take that in. So it goes into this fear paralysis reflex, this protective reflex to not take in those chemicals. So for that moment, and for those moments, for that hour, for that afternoon, that day, the development did not go according to plan. So there's now a blip in the development. I call it a gap. Not a big deal. My mom was stressed 2 or 3 times during her pregnancy, but let's be real. How much stress is really going on in our parents or in our moms? And I look at my kiddos, Manny had trauma. My first one had trauma because I ended up getting sick. And so they had to give me medication that absolutely created massive gaps in his development. And then he had a really hard labor, which again also created trauma, gaps. And then Adrian, I was stressed out of my skull when I was pregnant with him. So I can see how much gaps happened even before my kiddos came into this world for 2 different reasons. And so it makes sense that then when Adrian started showing signs of also difficulty, they just both basically were given all kinds of labels: autism, sensory processing disorder, ADHD, ADD. It was like just, and even more. But the interesting thing is that both of them, now looking back, had similar behaviors, but for 2 different reasons. So as we develop these little gaps, then what's going to happen is that our brain is going to have to compensate. No question about it. Some people think it's like, oh, I outgrew that. No, I promise you. We do not outgrow our gaps. We learn to compensate, and we are only as good as our compensations. So their compensations can work wonderful for many, many, many years. And for many people, it could be, it's not a big deal. It's like they will be successful, but at what cost? That's what I'm talking to you about. At what cost? So let's go back to the pons, and then we'll talk about more. The creeping, truly, this is incredible. There's all kinds of little movements, but the majority movement that develops the pons is tummy time. It's being on our tummy, being able to move across the floor on our tummy. Who knew? I didn't. And it's incredibly powerful. So let's look at some of the things that may happen if a person did not creep enough, if they did not do enough tummy time. These are some of the signs of that someone may experience: fight or flight, freeze, or collapse now, like I said, response. But to things that are not logical. There's some things, yes, but many times it's like, hey, the boss wants to have a chat with you. I was like, and it could be as simple as that, to have a fight or flight response. You can, your heartbeat is going fast, and truly, like, oxygen and energy is going to your limbs. It's not going to your cortex, your thinking brain, your brilliant part of your brain, which is where you want to be when you're going to have a conversation with someone. That's why thinking ears allows us to get out of fight or flight. So we can bring, when in fight or flight, the blood is either in the or let me back up. When we go into fight or flight, because of the blood leaving our cortex, it goes into the limbs, it goes into that pons area, so we can survive, because at this point we're thinking it's life and death. But it doesn't have to be. The brain only has to perceive that it is, and it sends us into the spiral. So we cannot be in our conscious brain, we can't be in our cortex and in fight or flight. Cannot be. So doing a simple movement will then ensure that we can be more in our conscious, brilliant, creative, productive, focused brain. Constant anxiety. And like I said, it's like about trivial things. I had an adult I've had several, that they're afraid to go into an elevator. It's distorted. Going into a dark room, distorted. In their house. Not just a dark room, or maybe like not just any dark room, in their house. It goes into that fight or flight. Mood swings. So you can imagine, of course, it's easy to see, right? If I'm always in fight or flight, I don't know where I'm at. And so people are going to see me as like, oh, she's so moody. It's like she's in one place and now she's in another. And it's like moody. Well, yeah, because there's no consistent energy that is being experienced. And like I said, distorted fears, fidgety, need to be moving all the time or playing with things, maybe playing with my hair, just fidgety, irritable. You can see how, if there's no consistent energy, it's like, oh, it can be it could be either way. This will ultimately challenge our brain to learn with ease. And so it will lead to learning disabilities, inattentive, difficulty forming strong relationships. This is huge. This is a huge one. I'm going to pause on this one for a moment because I want you to think about this. For a human, I'm going to keep saying this, for a human, the highest form of anything is to survive. Really. That's the most important thing, is for us to survive. But if my brain is constantly thinking, I'm in trouble, then I need to always be in alert. My whole system is always angsty. It's in angst, really. That's like, I need to be ready for whatever's going to happen. And so I can't calm my system down. If I can't be calmed, if I can't be in a calm state, and if I'm always kind of expecting things to go awry, then all of a sudden I can't open up my heart. I can't connect with somebody else because I'm in trouble. I feel like I'm in trouble. And so if I feel like I'm in trouble, then I need to be ready for whatever it is to survive. The thing is, in relationships, it's not about that. We need to be able to connect with somebody else. We need to be able to open up our heart. But if I'm always anxious, guess what? Biologically, it's virtually impossible to connect with somebody and have a meaningful relationship. We can connect at moments, but come on, who wants to connect at moments? We need to be able to really form a strong relationship, not just in, our home, not just with our partner, but also with whoever you're going to collaborate with. We need to be able to then not perceive certain things as a threat when they're not really a threat. And so this is big when you're doing collaborative projects, and a huge amount of what you guys do is that. So, and of course, difficulty focusing. So just think about that. If only one or two of these symptoms appear in your life, how much are they taking from your energy and from your ability to be able to get things done? Your brain is working harder than it really needs to, but we're not understanding how or why or what to do about it, which is more important. So isn't that amazing? So let's let me go back to you guys for a second. I'm gonna show you this one picture, and then I'm gonna come back to, because this is what it feels like to me. And we're gonna see this picture several times, but this picture, I mean, you see this guy, it's a very broad bridge for the most part, except in one part. And for me, I love this picture. Our Wakako, our Japanese director, sent me this, and I'm like, this is brilliant. This picture, for me, it's a very big visual that, is he going to get across? Yes. How much more effort do you think that he has to spend, though? If he's crossing this bridge every single day, multiple times a day, how much effort is he really spending when he's going through that little board? A lot more. And that's what truly is happening with our brain when we don't have a strong enough foundation, when we don't have the functions available for us, we're going to use more energy. And from my perspective, this is really where, will we achieve something? Of course, we're brilliant. You're brilliant. You will. Success. But I want more than just people to have success in our life. I want them to have an ability to connect to their joy. And when we have to work so hard, it is very challenging to connect with joy. So I want you to write down in the chat if I shared something that you're like, I didn't know. something new, something that caught your attention. Let me like just put in the chat, and you can even just put me or yes, that kind of thing. If good, and then we'll just wait for a second. As we're waiting, I'm going to then we're going to do another exercise because again, I've taken you through a lot right now. It may not seem like it, but it's a lot. It's a big deal. And now I want to integrate. We need to be able to allow the brain to then do a movement so that then we can take in what we have heard into a digestive state. And so a movement with an intention will allow us to do that a little better. Go ahead. This is new for me. You know how happy I am that you're here? Yes. All right, very good. Same. Yes. 100%. So do you want to go ahead?
Pawns is one of the part that caught me by surprise. Like this thing in my brain is responsible. And I had no idea parental trauma could be so integral in affecting one's neurological development. And then same. And then Holly, the amount of energy that is spent on anxiety through our days. I would love to know more about how to calm down and fix my broken brain.
Oh, it's not broken, Holly. That's what's so cool. It's not broken. It just needs a little TLC.
Yeah, see. Oh, this is new to me as in more depth. Everything about the ponds was new to me. And then there's another question that's it might be for more you, Holly. There are some people whose originality is not very good and no new, better art ideas can be found from them. I want to know if those people can become better 3D VFX artists. Is it possible? And if it is possible, then how difficult can it be? So,
Well, just two quick answers because I want to keep us on track with Alma. But first of all, I kind of want to push back and question on that very first part of the question. Some people whose originality is not very good or no new, better art ideas can be found from them. I feel like there's creativity in growth in general. So if you are learning and gaining skills, originality and creativity is going to come alongside that learning and growth. And then also, I think a lot of what Alma could be discussing in the future here. Good gracious, my cat is meowing. Then a lot of the good ideas that she's going to talk about could help us with the way we consider creativity. But I'll think on your question a little bit and put something in the chat a little bit later on that.
Well, and I'm going to
thank
address
you.
part of why this may be perceived
Question.
as, yeah, this is going to weave into the next piece that we're going to talk about.
Beautifully into that.
Yeah. And there's one more. You want to read?
It says, so issues like abandonment can affect us at an organic level by hijacking our perceived everyday danger due to lingering feelings of vulnerability.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk
Yeah.
more about that. But
Yeah.
let's do another exercise right now because I want you guys to then have different movements you can do. The next one is actually just called Lazy 8. And our Lazy 8 is really an infinity sign. But it's not, when I was working with kiddos, and Brain Gym calls it a Lazy 8. And I love that because it's funny. I don't like the word lazy, but I like the Lazy 8 because it was easy to teach. I worked an awful lot with kiddos in the schools. And so it was easy to teach them. It's like, look, this is an 8, and I would do an 8, and they're like, but this is lazy. And so that's an infinity sign, right? But before I show you how to do a Lazy 8 so that then your ability to be able to connect your left and right side of the brain happen like in an instant, because you do need to have your left and right side be integrated in order for the ideas to flow and for work to flow and for life to just be enjoyable. So go ahead and write, just for fun, write your name. And I want you to notice, how does it feel to write your name at the top of your paper, if you have a paper? And if you don't, just kind of pretend and just kind of feel what the letters are feeling like, but hopefully you'll have some paper. I didn't share this with Zoe and Holly that we would need some paper, but here it is. So play with me. Now what we're going to do is very simple. We're just going to make an X like that. And we're going to connect one side and then the other side. And like I said, it's just, that's the simplest way. You don't have to do it that way. You just do a lazy 8, do an infinity sign. And I want you to just trace it. Don't try to stay right above the line. Don't even think about it. Just trace that lazy 8. And what our intention for, as we do this movement, is I am excited to move forward in my life. I'm excited to move forward in my life. And go ahead and take a breath. I'm excited to move forward in my life. Now switch hands. So it doesn't matter if it goes a little differently, but I'd love for you to just switch your hands. So I am excited to move forward in my life. Doing it with both hands allows our brain not just to get integrated, but it also allows our brain to be more balanced. And so just do one more breath. I am excited to move forward in my life. So good. What was that again, you guys? About 30 seconds, roughly. Now go ahead and write your name again. And notice if this time your penmanship might be a little different. Your how it flowed, it might be even a little easier. Did you notice any difference, Holly, for you?
I didn't manage to write my name the first time around, so I
Okay.
have no comparator. But I know when I start my day, my writing is a little bit scratchier and not as neat as I would like it to be. And I did feel like I was writing very precisely after doing the, yeah.
So good. Typically what happens is, again, when we have more of an integrated brain, things flow easier. So our penmanship, sometimes it's like it's more crisp, it's more aligned, it's the letters are formed a little differently here and there. You know, it's one of the things that happens, though, I have to say, is that when we've been under so much stress, our ability to really sense and feel what our body is saying is diminished massively. When I first started learning certain things, it was like, you know, people would say like, well, what do you feel? And I'm like, I'm supposed to feel something? Because I don't. Because when we have so much stress, our body starts to numb itself to be able to survive. I was right there. That's what I was talking about with collapse, because that's what I really felt like I was for so long, that it was like, I don't feel anything, because that's what I had to do to be able to survive. And so going back even to thinking ears, if one of you guys didn't feel anything, keep doing it, because these little movements are gentle and they'll allow you, in a sense, to like thaw your body out to start being able to feel again. So the lazy 8 is one of these fun little movements that you could do them anywhere. You could do it as little as possible. You could do it super small. You could do it on your leg. Go ahead and just do it on your leg, because it actually feels really good. Like on your knee area. You could do it with your toe. Like you're sitting down in a conference, you could do it with your toe. You could do it on your table. Now, this is going to be really funny, but look. Okay, no, I'll move something else. There's these little lazy 8. There's these little 8s, infinity signs that are a little sensory. I have them like in my phone case because I love the feel of it, and it's just a reminder. Oh, I could just do that. I have it on my okay, on my glass case. Might as well. I have it on my board on my desk. I have one on my desk in my office. I have it on my mouse pad, because it's just a good reminder, and it is so powerful. In such a short time, I can integrate my brain to then have more access to focus, to being able to be more productive in like 10, 20, 30 seconds. So why not? Now, how many of you guys have ever walked into a room and you're like, oh, what did I come here to get? Maybe none of you, but I'm going to say one of you. So you walk into a room and you're like, I don't know what I came here to get. If you just pause for a moment and you do a lazy 8, you can do it in the air, you can do it with your thumb, you can do it on your leg. Just pause, do that lazy 8. It will bring whatever you were going in there for faster and easier, because that integration will then just connect your brain. It's like, oh, I got this. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. When I was learning this, I'll tell you a story. When I was learning this, I'm like, that sounds so silly. How can this little lazy 8? Because I'm a very skeptical person. I have to research. I learned something, but then it's like, I have to research it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here guiding you through some of the movements, because I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to practice it and then make up your mind for yourself. So I was like, okay. They're like, if it's in your brain and you do a lazy 8, you do this infinity sign, then chances are you'll be able to drop into that whatever it is that you're searching for. Sure. Okay. And so this one time I'm going that week, actually, when I learned this, I went to an ATM that I'm like, oh, I need some cash, but I had a card that I hadn't used in a long time. So I knew the code, but I hadn't used it in a long time, that I punched in the code and it was wrong. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm punch it again and it was wrong. I'm like, oh, it's gonna lock me out. I was pretty mad. I'm like, I have to go home. I have to go, it's gonna be an hour. Now my brain's like, it's gonna throw the whole day off. Okay, so I go back to my car, and in the steering wheel, when I was there, I'm like, wait a minute. They said that if I do the lazy 8, I could maybe possibly retrieve it if it's in my brain, if I knew it. And I knew that I had memorized it. And so I started doing the lazy 8 on my steering wheel. And I'm not kidding. Like within less than a minute, it was like, boom, like, I know what it is. Punched it in, done. Like, and that's one of the reasons why, there's certain movements that are like my go-to movements. That's what I'm teaching you. These are my go-to movements. In BrainWorx, we teach over 35 movements that then you get to decide which ones are your favorite, for our clients, which ones do they like, that then they can just utilize. These are mine. These are like my back pocket ones. So I love lazy 8. And it just takes no time and nobody has to even know about it. But then that you are really turning on your brain, focusing better, being able to then just be in a calmer state because you're integrated. So simple, but so profound. So that's the lazy 8. Anything, Lynn? Good.
There was lots of noticing in the chat.
Good.
About it. And one noticing, and this is going to come up again about, my mom made me practice so hard to improve my writing that now anything less than perfectly balanced letters is an offense to the cosmos. And yeah.
Oh, we're going to talk about a different part.
Yeah, we so understand that.
We'll address that a little later.
A little bit later. And then when you're talking about remembering things, that's me when I walk through any physical threshold area, with remembering things. And then circling back to what I said earlier, when I did the infinity sign with my left non-dominant hand, I thought for sure it'd be a mess, but I actually managed pretty well. So, it's all about the noticing. So thank you for writing that. And so more flowy, felt a little bit different than usual, more confident marks. Does it work the same by just drawing the lazy 8 shape in the air with your finger? And then, and then you win.
Yeah. I mean, this is why in BrainWorx I really encourage everyone to feel it for themselves. What is it that you like? Because I like what I like, and I used to with my kiddos. It's like, do it this way. This is the right way. And the more I understood the brain, the more I understood development, the more I understood how to shift certain things in my life. I realized that, you know, what feels good to me today, at other times, you know, tomorrow may not be what feels good to me. So how am I being so confident that that is the right way for them? It's not. And so now it's like, oh, we have to go into an exploration to really get to know what feels good to my system. My system is very different than my son's or my husband or my friends. So I'm not even going to attempt to tell you what the right way is, because there is a way to explore to figure out what is the best way that would feel good to you. So that's beautiful. All right, let's go back into the next part of our brain. You ready? I am, oh wait, I need to get back. So let me go into the slide deck. Just a second. Here we go. Ready. All right. So the next part is called oh, this is the pons. How about that? Let's go through the whole thing. But I mean, the next part is actually one of my favorite parts to talk about. The pons is fantastic. I usually call the pons the fight flight regulator. But the midbrain, here we go. The midbrain has a humongous amount of the skills that you want to be able to, that we are looking for, that we need in order to be able to start a project, go through the sequence of doing the project, finishing a project. There's a huge amount of executive functions that come in with the midbrain. Now, the midbrain, at this point, now we're on our hands and knees. We're starting to learn how to be more mobile, but how is our body, where is our body in relationship to everything in our atmosphere? You know, in relationship to the chair, in relationship to the dog, in relationship to everything. But also we're learning about gravity. We're learning about how to move my body through this space. And it usually develops between 6 to 12 months of age. Like I've seen kiddos that are still crawling at this point. And I think, again, going back to trauma, going back to the challenges that we're having as a society. Nowadays, I see kiddos that are 14, 16 months and still crawling. I find that fascinating. I find that amazing and awesome if the parent allows the child to still do that. But the doctors and people, when they don't understand this, they go, oh, he's late. He needs to start walking at a year. He's not hitting the milestones. I'm like, every child, every brain develops differently. As long as they're moving through the sequence of development, I really don't care if they're a year and a half or whatever. I mean, but you know, within reason, if they're going through the sequence of developments, why not? So crawling, hands and knees movement allows then these other functions to start happening, like the executive functions that we need, we want. But let's talk about some of the experiences that may happen if we didn't crawl enough, if we don't have enough development. Now, if we're having executive functions already that are a challenge, that means for me, it means like we were already off the path of development. We're already off that sequence way before then. But these are huge. So impulsivity and risk-taking behaviors. I have no idea to really be able to see what I need to do, what I want to do, and then really be able to have an expanded view of what are the risks. Can't do that. It's like, that's what I want, boom, and I'm there. And it scares me when this is not developed and we're going into adolescence. You get the idea. It's like impulsivity galore. And it's like, oh goodness, the life-altering things can happen when we're that impulsive, when we have hormones, when we have the inability to see what kinds of risks we're really taking. Huge. Easily distracted, poor focus. This is big because everything is coming in to the brain. It does not have the ability to see what is priority and what is not. So it has difficulty prioritizing a task because everything is coming in as important. you know, the car going by, the computer over there turning on, the, you know, I don't know, the rooster outside, I don't know, whatever. Everything is telling my brain it's important, and it can differentiate what is not. Oh, wait, no, the presentation is important right now. But because I have to focus so much on if I have an underdeveloped midbrain, I have to focus so much, it's gonna tire me out really quickly. And this is where there's a misconception that, you know, if our brain is working so hard, it's gonna run out of gas. But we look like everybody else, and we don't understand that, oh, we're out of gas. And so they're like, yeah, see, I'm lazy, Holly. I should be doing more. I'm lazy. I don't have it within me to do. I know how to do it. I should be doing it. No. Try to drive a car with no gas. And that's what we're expecting of our system and our brain the majority of the time when we have maxed it and we're not aware of it. So poor filtering, prioritizing incoming stimuli. Can you imagine you're having a conversation with your boss or with a creative team, and you're going like, oh, there's a car going by over there. It's like the squirrel syndrome, but truly because it has no ability to know, like, no, focus on the project. Everything is important. That fly that went by, that's important. Nope, it's not, but I can't differentiate it. And it's not you can't will it. It's biological. It's physiology that we have within us if we have the sequence available. It's there. If we don't, we don't. Looping thoughts. Oh, this is a big one. It's like broken records that, you know, I'm dating myself. That's okay. It's like things that just keep skipping, it's just looping over and over and over. And it could be over the silliest thing. It could be like Lynn said, I don't like your shirt. What's wrong with that shirt? Like, why'd you pick that shirt? And then like a week later, I'm like, I can't believe she didn't like my shirt. What's wrong with my shirt? I like my shirt. And then I look at Lynn. Every time I look at Lynn, it's like, she didn't like my shirt. She didn't like it. Can you imagine how much energy is being taken for not being able to go? It's like, let it go. I can't start a project and not finish it. I can't do, there's certain things that it's like, they have to be done a certain way. How much energy is really being spent there? A lot. Dislikes light physical touch. Ooh, this is a big one. Remember how we talked about in the pawns, no, let's not go there. The light physical touch registers like almost pain for some people. It's so uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, just light and doesn't feel good, but they like big bear hugs. They like big hugs because then the sensory system gets a lot of input, but a light is like, it makes them cringe. It's not comfortable. So imagine if you can't bond with somebody and then you can't intake light, sweet touch. Oh, you don't like me, do you? I'm trying to be affectionate and you're like brushing me off. Can you imagine like how many people it's like if somebody touches, you know, in a kind way, somebody is like, oh God, why are you doing that? Wouldn't that be really misunderstood? It has nothing to do with how the person feels about that person. It has everything to do how the brain and the body are registering touch. Whoa. Poor balance and coordination. This is where there's fidgety for the pawns, poor balance and coordination because I have no idea where I'm at. So I'm going to need to always be playing with something that will give me, oh yeah, this is telling my brain this is where I'm at. I could be like tapping my foot. Yep, because there I am. Because if I don't have an awareness of where I really am in space, it's going to feel so odd, so weird. So it's going to take so much more power. But if I tap, if I'm moving my leg, and the more stressed I am, the more I'm going to need this feedback. And you've seen that when people get really, really stressed, they're like moving their foot even more. Those are compensations. And people go, oh, he's nervous. Because he's compensating. And he doesn't know where he's at, or she. And so, you know, it could be playing with my hair. Yep, that's where it tells me I am. Hey, look, it just keeps telling my body, here I am, here I am, here I am. Wonderful. You know, I always say this example. I said it a lot when I would teach teachers. I go, I want you to imagine somebody walking in your room and they're blind. Would you ever say, please don't touch anything? Just get to this circle or get to this place over here. It's like, that would be ridiculous. Except that I look at when somebody doesn't have a well-developed midbrain and they're asked to not touch it. Why do you have to touch everything? It's the same exact thing, except that they can see physically. But their sensory system, their body does not register where they're at. They don't feel what kind of pressure, again, especially with kiddos, it's more known, more seen in kiddos because they haven't compensated enough. They haven't learned enough compensations to do something different. But it's like, I would always tell my kids, like, no, don't pet the dog so hard. Pet it nicely, pet it gently. It has no idea. I could have been going like, blah, 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 blah. What was that? Who knows? Because that's how they registered. What does lightly, gently mean? Doesn't register. It's in the nervous, it's in the proprioceptive system. The proprioceptive system has these receptors in each and every one of our joints that give us feedback. How many of you guys sometimes are writing and your writing is like death grip? Mine was. I was like, oh, it hurts after a while, until then more of this started being available for me. Didn't know how much I was compensating. I'll tell you more about that later. So learning disabilities is a no-brainer because the midbrain brings in auditory processing, visual discrimination, visual imagery, visual closure, shifting gears, being able to truly be able to go from one to the next easily. Can't shift gears. I need, many times when the midbrain's not developed, I become OCD. I become like, it has to be done this way. Who took my scissors? I left my scissors here. They need to be here because those are my compensations. They need to be a certain way so that then I can flow. I can't just weave. Now, don't get me wrong. It's wonderful to be organized, but sometimes at one point it was like, it better be there because then I get discombobulated if it's not there. For processing and tactile sensitivity, I don't like tags. I don't like sock seams. I have this one woman, she's 72. This is what's so beautiful, you guys. At any age, this can be stimulated again. It could be reactivated to get developed, but she's 72 and she's like, Alma, this is the first time that now I don't have to flip my socks inside out because of the sock seam. It was too much for her sensory system. So sock seams, waistbands, tags, they don't even put tags anymore. Thank God. But all of that has to do with being able to take information and then just not pay attention to it. Forgetfulness, you can see why. So these are incredible functions that are needed. Like I said, and many, many times what I learned with different modalities that I was learning was that they were talking about executive skills. How do you set certain things? But they're more talking about it from like I don't want to call it this way, but it kind of is this way, a Band-Aid. Let me show you a process that then you're just going to be able to have what you need to be able to accomplish this, but we're not addressing the root. Do you see what I mean? That this is why I absolutely love that I get to share this. So let me show you a pyramid. This is the pyramid of learning. If it actually will come. Nope. Back again. Okay. Oh, you get to see it again. And this is where life is so fun. This in the past would have gone like, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm like, no, never done it. It's life. Sometimes life happens. Go ahead.
In the meantime, there was a question in Q&A in regards to this, and it said, how important is the environment in the development of the brain? I honestly think that the reason why I have distracting so much or low attention span is because of my job. I work as a line cook, so I usually have to take care of several tasks and dishes and have the ability to multitask constantly. Is it conceivable that my brain is now programmed to constantly pay attention to everything, even when it doesn't matter?
Well, if we don't have the midbrain developed, it is a compensation flat out. What we've learned is, okay, it's not going to be popular, you guys, but science, this is science that has been, and research that has been done over and over, that it really shares with us that it is impossible to multitask. Now, you're going like, but I have to. You're doing different things. Many of them are being done automatically, but for the brain to focus on multiple things at once, it doesn't have that ability. It can only focus on one thing at a time. That your body's doing some different things, yes, but the thing is, when we're doing multitasking, and I'm not saying like you have to do that, that's your job. We can't just do like one little, wouldn't it be awesome to really just be able to do one thing at a time? No, it's not possible with our job, with our life that we have it. But I want you to just take it in from the brain's perspective, to know it, to validate that, hey, you're working so hard, you're doing so much. We need to be more gentle with ourselves and be more loving to the amount of things that we can accomplish with a system that is working overtime. See, when we kind of change the way that we look at how much we really are doing and not what we're not doing, it changes everything. It allows us to be more compassionate to ourselves, more caring to ourselves. So you've learned to hone in to how do you get the job done, and there's new pathways that have been created to be able to help you do that. So that's that ability to rewire the brain. That's wonderful. But I want to go in a little bit more in depth so you can see even more from that root system. So look at this pyramid. The very bottom, the pons, midbrain, and those reflexes that I've been talking about, is that blue section. It's that very bottom foundational piece of this pyramid. And then after that, we have the tactile vestibular proprioceptive system. All of this comes in with the crawling. And then it goes into, I mean, it all weaves in together, but look at, academic learning, or just how about producing? How about working? All that is needed. All these functions are needed in order for us to be able to do learning and work in a comfortable way. Again, this is not saying like, oh, you're not going to be able to be successful. Please hear me out. To me, this means that whatever your success is, you will be able to be successful. To me, it's at what cost? At what cost? How much do you really have to put forth more than if your brain was working more optimal? So that's what we're talking about. And let's go to the next one. Optimal. Love this. So look at this picture. I love this little video because it's a video of neurons and axons coming together. It's somebody that's learning to play the piano. And so as they're practicing, these neurons and axons are going towards each other. This happens no matter what it is that we're learning. So the person that's learning to do all these multitasking at work, your brain literally has created, I want to do that again. Oops, go back, because I want to see that one again. Look at that. It is like extraordinary. This is a real brain in action. Isn't it beautiful? And so when we understand how it's so malleable, how we could change our brain, to me, it just feels really exciting. I love this quote from, I think it's Dr. Wayne Dyer, says, "The world changes when you change our perspective." I absolutely love it. And I love that this picture because it's like just so many stars, and our brain actually has a lot of stars in a lot of, actually they're neurons, but it looks like this at one point. Now I'm going to come back to you guys for a moment because this is my favorite part, and we can come back and just, there we go. So now that was the midbrain. Can you see how much ability we need to be able to have in order to be able to do a job or a project easily? So if I said anything that you liked or that was like kind of astonishing with the midbrain, just go ahead and write me. And whoever, I love the brain little picture. Yeah. I was blown away. I'm like, well, no wonder. I'll tell you I'll tell you some of the things that I learned about myself, because again, I am so grateful that my compensations stopped working. I was mentioning this to Holly and to Zoe before our meeting, is that I didn't realize how much I was compensating until I couldn't compensate anymore. So I had in school, did okay. It was okay because I compensated. I had to reread an awful lot. I could really only read about maybe 10 minutes. And then my brain would be thinking, oh, what do I want to eat? What am I going to have tomorrow? And it was like my physical brain got tired after 10 minutes of reading, because it had to use so much more effort to just do the logistics of reading, that then it's like, I can't pay attention and read. I could still keep reading, but now I'm thinking of, I'm hungry. I want to eat this. What am I going to do this? And then I get to the bottom of the page, like, what did I read? Yeah, can anybody relate? And then the organization in my life was like all over the place. It was like, oh, I got to go put a laundry load in. So I go, oh, wait, no, but I need to put the dishes in. Oh, wait, but I got to pick up never get anything. I cannot start going, okay, this is the sequence that needs to happen. I can see it clearly. Boom, 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 boom. Nope. It's like, oh, here, oh, there, oh, that. And at the end of the day, I'm like, God, I'm exhausted and I've done nothing. It's a lot. It's a lot that we have to go through. So those are big ones that I was like, I didn't realize until I didn't have to work so hard. That's like, oh, wait, it doesn't have to be so strenuous to have things organized. No, when we have the ability to do it, it's effortless. It's like breathing. They're automatic functions that come in, like breathing. You don't have to think about breathing unless like you're in fight or flight, then you stop breathing. But even then we don't think about it, right? We are just challenged. So this is beautiful. I'm going to talk to you guys now about what do we have, Holly? How much time do I have? Give me a sense of how much more time do we have? I think we still
go for 30 more minutes.
Okay, you got it. Oh, this is my favorite time. This is my favorite part. So, and then at the end, I'm going to show you guys my absolute favorite exercise to do, because it's not even, you're not even moving, but it does a lot. So the next part I'm going to talk to you about is this. We're going to talk about the emotional body. So what I learned is that, I started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with my kids, and I was like, oh, this is good. Life is getting easier. Life is getting better. And then all of a sudden, I would ask them to do something very simple, and they wouldn't. And it was like, oh, this is never going to end. It's always going to be like this. And I just go down this rabbit hole of emotions that it just would stop me in my tracks, and I would just not be the best me. And so then I was like, what is up with that? What's up with that? It's like, my kids later on, I was like, oh, they were so tired. I messed up. It didn't matter. My whole nervous system went into this chaotic state. My emotions were all over the place. And what happens is, back then, my kiddos really, it could have been anything, that they were too tired, they were too hungry, that whatever it was. And so we're all human. We're all human, that there's days that we're just not going to be our best. And so, but it didn't matter. It's like, I was emotionally, I was just distraught all the time. And this is one of the reasons why we start with movement and intention, because I started just piecing things intuitively. I'm like, okay, if I do this movement, but I set an intention, and this is before like all this research on intentions came out, it just started making me be able to show up differently for my children. And I was like, whoa, what is this? So when I started really just honing in, and I asked my parents, the parents I was working with, because for 20 years I worked word of mouth. Not even Lynn jokes with me on this one, because we'd have conversations and she'd go, Alma, you should get some cards, at least a card. Like, it was all word of mouth in San Diego, because I'd live in San Diego. So it was all, and then they talked to their schools, and then the schools would contact me, and I'd go and do teacher training, parent trainings, and things like that. But so the people that I worked with, I'd go, okay, you got to do this sequence of movements, and you have to put an intention. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, I really started feeling like I could be in a stressful situation and my brain could still think. Partly was because I had been doing the other movements, but this piece in itself is massive. What happens is that then later on, Lynn, in one of our conversations, I'm like, Lynn, I was talking about this, we're talking about the field, and we're talking about quantum physics, and she's like, oh yeah, Dr. Bruce, he wrote a book, Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote a book about the biology of belief. I think it's something like that you're talking about. I'm like, somebody researched this? So she brought me this book that I couldn't put down, The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He gave me the words to what I'm going to share with you right now. I was like, oh, this makes sense. What he shared is this: from the time that we're in utero to 7 years old, we get 80% of our beliefs. 80%. So think about what kinds of beliefs your parents have. You were just gifted them, the majority of them. So 80% of who you think you are was given to you without your consent, without you really being able to say anything about it. Now, there's amazing programs you did get, and there's some limiting programs that were also gifted. And those limiting programs, no matter what you do, if they're still in your subconscious, they will challenge you, and they will keep you in a space where you will not be able to you have to rewire your subconscious. There's different ways of doing that. One of them is if like there's something big happens, it's like, okay, got it. Hypnotherapy is another one. EMDR is another one. Tapping, sometimes, there's all kinds of different modalities. And I tried many different ones that I'm like, whoa, but each one is like, I had to go to someone to help me do it. And especially hypnotherapy is wonderful, but it was like, it felt like I just gone through battle again. Like I felt like my whole nervous system was like, okay, yeah, okay, now I can remember this traumatic event, but it's not traumatic anymore. But my body feels like it had just gone through war zone. Like there's got to be, again, my brain goes into, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be an easier way, a softer way, a gentle way. And so when Dr. Bruce was talking about how before 7 years old, our left and our right brain, they're not conscious. They're in a hypnotic state. That's why we talk about kids that they're 4, 5, 6 years old. And like, they're sponges. Because they are in a synchronized state. The left and the right brain, they're synchronized. They're not in their left or their right. They're synchronized. With synchronization comes something that's called super learning. That's why they can be sponges. Everything is just being downloaded. When that happens, anything that you're saying to the subconscious, anything that you're saying to the brain, it's being taken in. But let me ask you guys this. How much of the day do you think you're conscious? Let's start with Holly. Come on, Holly, give me a percentage. How much of the day do you think you're conscious?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question.
And for everybody else, write in the chat. How much of the day do you think you're conscious?
Help, phone a friend. Poll the audience. I'm gonna say we spend a third of our lives sleeping, right? No way we can be conscious then. But then also, like, there's so much of our day that we're not like really plugged in, right? So I'm gonna say 40 or 50% of my day that I'm unconscious of. That's my best guess.
All right. That's a great guess. 20%. Esteban said it's not sure. Yeah. 40%. 60? Wow. That would be awesome. You ready? 5% of the day we are conscious. 5% of the day we're conscious, and it could go down to 1% if we're stressed. And you're like, no way. How many times do you have to think about if you're tying your shoes? Do you have to think about tying your shoes? You're on autopilot. How many times are you driving down the highway? You're not thinking about how to drive. You're just driving. Your brain is somewhere else, but you're on autopilot. So it's wonderful. There's no way we could do everything that our body that we need to do if we didn't have that subconscious taking care of the monotony, the majority of the things that we're doing. Our conscious brain is brilliant. This is where the ideas come in. But if there's a dissonance between, oh my God, I'm going to do this, and then who do you think you are? You're not going to be able to do this. You've never been able to do this. You're so dumb. For the longest time, I really thought I was not intelligent because when I was a kid, and I was born in Mexico, so anytime that you got an answer wrong, I went one year to school, I actually got hit if I was wrong. And so, I mean, that's when, corporal punishment was still, I'm not that old, but it was a very rural area that it's like, it was very, very challenging to, what that told me was that I got the answer wrong. You're dumb. Or I'm very inquisitive. I want to share what my thoughts were. Oh, that is so lame, Alma. Oh, there she goes again. That told me as a kid, I'm not intelligent. I'm not smart. Why even share thoughts? So I learned one of my compensations was, what kind of ice cream do you like, Holly? Chocolate? What kind of ice cream do you like?
Vanilla is my very favorite.
Oh my God, vanilla is my favorite too. No, it's not. But you know what I mean? It's like we learn compensations because it's like we don't want to be wrong. So we learn to go with the flow. We learn to just go with the flow and not really notice who we really are because of all these other programs that were given to us. And so if we're given programs that are not real, they're faulty, flat out faulty, because they're not serving us. When they're not serving us, they're faulty. Like, I'm not smart, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not lovable. See, I've never had little things that happen. It's like, see, I'm not lovable. And if I have those kinds of subconscious beliefs, people call it sabotage. The thing is, the brain, I look at it differently. It's not going to be a sabotage from my perspective. What it is that our subconscious is here to help us stay safe, stay within our lane. And so if we have certain beliefs about ourselves, it has to manifest. Even if we're going towards something great. Oh, but you're not going to be able to finish it. You never have. And it drops. Come on. It doesn't have to be. So what I learned is that through movement, we can go back and put the brain back into a synchronized state. And when we download, basically, if it's in a synchronized state, remember it's in super learning. When it's in super learning mode, your subconscious goes, what do you want? You're back into when you were 6 years old. What do you want? And you just download what you want. I am enough. Now, when I say I am, it's not like Alma is enough. Think about when you came into this world. Have you ever seen a baby and you go, whew, this baby's just not enough? Be ridiculous, right? No. When we came into this world, we were perfect. And so we download into the subconscious programs that you want. Now, I want you to imagine this because I love your school. When we come into this world, our brain, our conscious brain, actually it's our cortex, it comes in as a clean computer, a clean computer. Now, there's other parts that have other information that's brought in, but this part is clean. Every time that somebody says something to us, it just gets downloaded. Now it's like your computer. When you get a computer, you're just like, what kind of apps do you want? What kind of programs do you need? You download those. You push a button and you download it, right? Then you have that app. You have that program. And sometimes when I say to people, okay, I want you to do these rewires, they're huge. Like, I am enough. I am smart. They're like, yeah, but I don't feel enough. Not the first time. But we have to build the concept, but we have to think of it this way. If your brain is a computer and you push a button to download an app, it would be ridiculous, a ridiculous thing if you asked your brain, hey, or your computer, right? So you have your brand new computer. I think Holly just got a brand new computer. I'm so jealous. No, I'm just kidding. That she pushes, well, she's going to put Photoshop, or what's your favorite, Holly, just for fun? What's one of your favorite apps or programs to play with?
Oh my goodness. Sure. Let's say Photoshop.
Okay. So Photoshop, she's like, I want to start, being creative. And then she's like, excuse me, do you believe this is Photoshop? Like, it would be ridiculous if Holly even had a conversation with her computer saying, do you believe this is Photoshop? No, you download a button, you push a button, it downloads into your computer. Now you have Photoshop. You don't have to ask your computer, do you believe it? No, it's the same thing with our subconscious. We don't have to tell it, do you believe you're enough? No, somebody didn't ask us that at the very beginning. Why are we asking ourselves now? Just download it. Download it. And that excites me massively, because now what I learned, what I've experienced is that all of a sudden it's like when my children had a meltdown, I didn't have to join them. I could truly hold a space for them to then have their party. And I just be there. I could be calm to be able to know how can I help them through this difficult time, instead of what happened before was that they were going through a difficult time. And I was like, it was really more a reflection of me. Why are they doing this? Why are you doing this? Like, I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not doing enough. It really was about me feeling so inadequate as a parent that I was uncomfortable, and it would trigger my wounds inside me, my trauma, that I was not doing enough. They were a reflection of me, and they're not. But that's what it felt like. And I felt so inadequate. And so it was really all about me, versus then as we kept growing, all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're having a hard time. Now it's like, how can I help them? How can I teach them? How can I support them? Versus joining them into, stop. I need you to stop because I'm feeling terrible. It's the same thing though. So I'm talking about my kids, but it's the same thing in the workforce or a project. We need to be able to be calm in ourselves in order to be able to see, you ready? A different perspective. We cannot be in fight or flight. We cannot be in an anxious mode and see somebody else's perspective. Can't. And so projects, collaborations work so much better when I can see my perspective and I can see Lynn's perspective or Bob's perspective or Wakaka's perspective, and I get a big view of it, versus, no, Holly, this needs to be done this way because this is the only way that I will be comfortable with it. But Holly's telling me, but Alma, if you do it this way, I don't care. That's too crazy. That's too weird for me. I can't see that. And we're going to butt heads. It goes back to, again, having the foundational pieces in our brain and in our emotional body, in our subconscious, to be able to then go, oh, wait, how do you do that? I can have an awareness, an open space to not feel threatened, that it's not about me. So this is the exciting part. What you guys are going to get is, for a week, I'm going to take you through a challenge. I'm going to take you through a 5-day kickstart, where then you're going to learn the movements a little at a time, one day at a time. I will expand on each movement of why we do the movement. And then at one point, we go into that synchronized state, so that then whatever it is that you want, you just automatically download into your subconscious. So through movement, the 5-day challenge is going to help you learn how to rewire your subconscious beliefs. It's massive, you guys. It's really massive, because if you can start to really have more of a collaboration between your conscious brain saying like, I want this, and your subconscious says, yeah, you can, then whether you're conscious or not, you're going towards your goals. Let me give you a story. This is I love this story because I made it up, but it'll give you an idea of why this is so powerful. So I want you to imagine that I'm in San Diego. You don't have to imagine that, but I am. and they said, hey, here's a boat. And in this boat, you're going to go, I want to go to Hawaii. So Hawaii, they give me a little compass, and they go, Hawaii is that way. So just keep your compass pointed that way, you get to Hawaii. So I'm in my boat. It's my story anyway. Let's make it a yacht. Okay, so in my yacht, right? So in my yacht, I'm so excited because like I love mountain biking, I love hiking, I love all these things. So in my conscious brain, I'm going like, I'm excited about what's going to happen when I get to Hawaii. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm going and I get tired. So I'm going to go to sleep. My subconscious has to take over. Dang. Okay. I go to sleep and I wake up and I look at my compass and I'm like, oh no, I'm going towards China. No. Okay. No, I want to go to Hawaii. So now how much effort am I going to have to do to move my yacht towards, okay, finally, I'm back on track. Consciously back on track. Here we go. But my conscious brain will get really, really tired really fast. So it's like, oh no, I'm going to have to, at some point, I'm going to have to sleep again. No, and I can fight it. And I'm going to have to work harder. I know what to do. I just need to stay. No, it doesn't matter. We have physical brains and physical bodies that need rest. Okay, so now I have to go to sleep. I wake up again and I'm off course again. Oh, no. Unconscious again. I'm off course. No. So now I have to, if I'm going on this route, will I get to Hawaii? Maybe. Because I have to keep rerouting. I have to keep going. And what if life happens? What if there's a storm that really takes me off course? I may not ever get to my goal. But what if somebody would have told me, hey, Alma, your little yacht, it actually has a GPS system. And you could plug in the coordinates of Hawaii. And whether now you're conscious or unconscious, whether now your conscious brain is on or your subconscious is on autopilot, you're going to be going towards Hawaii the whole entire time, whether you're not conscious or conscious. I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me this from the very beginning? That's what I'm sharing with you today. The rewire process I'm going to share with you in the 5-day Kickstarter is the way that you consciously, you don't have to go to an EMDR person. Now, EMDR is great, but you don't have to. For me, it's like, show me what to do. Because I want to empower people. We at BrainWorx, we want to empower people to truly take hold of their life, but in a way that is gentle, kind, loving towards themselves. Because if they're loving towards themselves and they're valuing themselves, guess what happens? Then it spills over. And we get to share it with our loved ones, with our creative team, with our teachers, with everyone else. So for me, you have a GPS. You have a GPS system. And I'm very excited that you get to experience it. Because one of the things that I have to say, I'll say one more thing about my life is that when I was in school, I would beg teachers, I would beg professors, please don't make me go in front of the class to do a 5-minute oral report. I hated it. I could not do it. I couldn't think. My heart was going to stop. I really felt like it would. And I couldn't think of what to say. I'm in front. I'm like, oh God, they're looking at you, even though they were my peers. Didn't matter. It was like, I think they're tigers and they're gonna like eat me. No, but I couldn't think of what to say. And so I would do projects that would take me, a week, 2 weeks to do, to avoid going in front and talking in front of the class. And so when all of a sudden I started learning all of this, and then schools started contacting me and said, will you come and do a teacher training? Oh God, okay. A parent training. Oh, and I'm a mom. I'm a mom that really is, I have a researcher brain and a very inquisitive brain, and I love puzzles. And I don't like to work. I want to work as least as possible, but in an effective way, right? So it's not lazy, it's effective, it's efficient. And so then I started going and doing these teacher trainings, and I promise you, I could not wait. Starting in the first 5 minutes, I was like, is it done? Is it over? And it was like, oh, they're looking, it's like, they're teachers, they're credentialed teachers. They've had so much education. You're just a mom. What are you saying? What are you doing? Like, oh, how stupid could you be? Oh, why'd you say that? Oh, the voices inside my brain were so loud. I could not think of what to say next. It was painful. And the more I started doing these rewires, when I really realized what had been shown to me, that I could truly start putting in programs in my brain, in my amazing computer, all of a sudden those voices started dissipating. And all of a sudden, and that's like, this is easy. I mean, if now I can just share what I know without having all that judgment inside me, those are our subconscious beliefs that are not serving us. They're not real. But it doesn't matter how much we know it here. That's why in BrainWorx, we have to practice these movements, and that's a huge piece that we do, but we also need to be able to stay consistent with them. And the more consistent we stay with them, the more that then all of a sudden we really get to show up as who we are. And there's this one, I'll tell you one story that just sealed it for me, that I'm like, this is, we were already working with Bob, but it was like, it was a big celebration. So I'll have you celebrate with me. It was a presentation that I was asked to do at a very affluent school in San Diego. And so there's, I don't know, maybe about 50, 60 parents there, and they don't know me. So I started talking about my presentation, and 5 minutes into it, I can't wait to see Holly's face. No, I'm just kidding. 5 minutes into it, my brain said shift. My mouth said something else. They don't know me. And it was like, okay. I think you can imagine what I said. So I was like, hi, my name is Alma. Let's start again. So we started, we kind of made fun of it for a moment. And then at the very end of the presentation, at the very, very end, Bob is helping me clean up getting the equipment, the overhead projector, that kind of things, taking it out. And he goes, I can't believe you said that. I said what? The word? I go, oh my God, I did. Totally forgot about it. That would have been something that would have been so devastating for me that I would have not been able to really focus on what I was going to present. And to me, it was like, oh, that was like such a huge piece that it was like, it was just a huge celebration for me, that it's like, we're human. Our brain, our body sometimes does these funky things, and it's okay. And so now when I mess up, I actually love it when I mess up, to be honest, because it's like, good feedback. Good feedback. Good feedback is like my automatic thing that comes on. Before it was like, God, how stupid could you be? So a little at a time, we get to rebuild our brain a little at a time. So I'm going to give you one more scenario, and then we'll go into Q&A. And I kind of shared a little bit with Holly before our meeting, and that is this. We're going to have to compensate no matter what if our physical brain doesn't have the connections to give us the ability to have the functions available to us. There is a saturation point because we can only compensate so long. And then we get into our 30s and 40s, usually about our 40s and 50s. Many of you are not there yet, but just kind of hear me out. At that time, our physical brain starts to not be able to compensate, help us compensate, because when we have to compensate for our physical brain, we are only as good as our compensations. But in my 20s and my 30s, especially in my 20s, I was like, you know what though? But I got this because I got energy. I've got hope. I got this. I will outwork anyone. Can anybody relate? And then all of a sudden in my 30s, I was like, oh God, I thought I was going to be somewhere else. And I don't have the same amount of energy. And I don't have the same amount of hope because I thought I was going to be somewhere else by the time I was in my 30s and 40s, definitely my 40s and 50s. So that then it's like, oh, my eyes are starting to go. My ears are not working the same way. My balance is not as well. So that means my compensations have been diminishing. So now my best is starting to go down. The same time, the emotional body, we're going to look at our emotions. Every time that we got triggered, like let's say that when anything that happened that is like, oh, I'm not smart. That became a signature feeling. We fragmented from it because I had to make sense of it. I can't make sense of it, so I can't deal with it. I'm just going to put it in an area over here. If that's a signature feeling, and wherever it came in, any time that somebody made me feel, or somebody said something, because they can't make me feel, but somebody said something that touched that signature feeling of I'm not smart, that feeling became bigger and bigger and bigger. And then in our 30s and 40s and 50s, it's like in our 20s and 30s, we got like, whatever. It's not a big deal. Whatever. I can just like let it go. And they start to become all these signature feelings. I'm not smart. I'm not good enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not able to blah, blah, blah. They have increased in their energy, in their presence. So anytime that somebody triggers that, it's a bigger reaction. I can't just brush it off anymore. So here he goes. We have the saturation of the physical body, the physical brain. We have the saturation of the emotional body. We bring that together. And in our 40s and 50s, I call it our midlife crisis. Some people call it something else, but that to me really signifies, I've not heard that anywhere else, that truly it's our brain and the emotional body coming to a head going, I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. It's too much. It's so hard. And then we think we're depressed. We can put other labels. I'm overwhelmed. Yes, we are overwhelmed, but there's other labels that get put on because things are starting to fall apart. So for me, it's if we are able to understand the foundational pieces that give us the ability to show up and be who we really are, it just will allow us to share the gifts that we have with the whole world. And that's why I'm here. So let's do one more movement and then I'll come to you guys. So this is my favorite movement. It's not even a movement, but it is one of the movements that you'll learn in the 5-day challenge. And I just want to thank Lynn for being here. She's going to have to go, but thank you, Lynn, for being here. And I will see you later. So this movement is called the calming posture or hookups. So I want you to, if you're sitting, no, Holly's sitting down. So Holly, just cross your ankles, your legs at the ankles. You're going to put your hands in front, thumbs down, clasp your hands and bring them into your chest as so. Your tongue will go to the roof of your mouth. So put your hands in front, thumbs down, bring them over. Boom. There you go. And bring them in. And
Pretty good.
Now go ahead and just put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a deep breath. And you're going to just be there. What it is in this position, your whole energy is in one circuit. And in one circuit, it's drawing lots of blood to your heart. Now, if that feels a little odd, Holly, just go ahead and give yourself a hug. Give yourself a hug like that. That's as good as that. And so when you're doing that, and all of a sudden your energy is going to start to calm down. Your heart is going to start to bring so much energy that it's going to start to simmer down. When your heart calms down, your brain is going to follow suit. So when you're anxious and you just get into this calming posture, it'll truly allows your whole nervous system, your whole body to come back into center. Does that make sense? So this is one of my favorite ones, because then I just usually I'll set an intention that is like a so simple one, like I show up, I do my best, and I release the rest in whatever project I'm doing. This is one of my go-to ones, or I got this. And then what you want to do is you want to switch hands and switch legs. This will balance the brain a little easy, more balanced. And that is the calming posture. That is my favorite one. And so with that, I'm going to then give it back to Holly and see if anything else comes up in the Q&A. Thank you so much, Lynn.
All right, everybody, how amazing is Alma? I know she can't see you, so a round of applause wouldn't work, but please do put your thank yous in the chats. I am so appreciative for you and your time. As I mentioned at the very start of this is a little different than what we teach in our normal industry-focused classes at school, but we are delighted to be able to connect with you. Alma, thank you so much for your time. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about these kind of topics or more about our school in general, we have some upcoming Mental Health Awareness Month events that you are invited to, whether you are a student, an alum, or just a member of the public. The next one is From Doubt to Drive, Building Confidence in Your Creative Career. And then I put it in the chat, but I'm reiterating, if you want to chat with admissions, you can email hello@cgspectrum.com. And you can also ask them to forward questions if you have them for me. And Alma and Lynn also have shared in the chat the way that you can ask them further questions, support at brainworxinc.com. So that is pretty much all we have time for today. Thank you so much. Also, here's our social media. And again, hello@cgspectrum.com to get in touch with us. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your thoughtful questions and comments. What a privilege it has been to spend this time with Alma and Lynn, and just delighted to hopefully continue the conversation. So if you enjoyed this, don't be a stranger. Get in touch with an Alma or Lynn or hello@CG Spectrum. And then also just be aware that you will get a follow-up email that has the recording of this event and also information about how you can spend 5 more days with Alma and her brilliant insights. So thank you everyone for your time. Have an amazing rest of your day, and
Holly,
hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Holly, I'm wondering if we can answer Rami's question. Can you read that one, and then we'll end with this one, because I think it's really important.
Lynn, would you be willing to read Rami's question, and it'll be our last thing for the day? I was looking for that and I couldn't find it. What was his question?
In the Q&A.
Okay. Q&A, and it is under answered.
Is it wrong to convince ourselves that we are successful even though we really don't feel we are? We have been in the survival mode due to war for a long time now, due to the limit, where I really try to create 3D art to express my feelings, but I can't come up with anything at all. Is there a way to trick our brains to trigger that lost creativity. Thank you
Yep.
so much, Rami. And thank
This
you
is
for
a really,
answering this.
I had to answer this one, Holly, and for everyone else that's still here, it's like, this is one of the reasons why we are working so hard, and we will keep sharing, because 2020 really did a number on us all, entire civilization and more. And it's just getting kind of more amped. And so it's not, I don't really think of it as that we have to trick ourselves, but we have to gently start to reboot our system to really get a different perspective. And we have to then also define what is success. Success many times feels like, in the way that it was before for me, it was like, oh, I have to achieve something. That's success, because our world really only honors huge amount is show me what you've done, and then I can celebrate you. My view of success has completely shifted now to, if I am able to be calm and honoring myself and be able to have more of a manageable life, that is like the ultimate success for me right now. That if I'm not spinning my wheels and I'm doing a little at a time, that what my system truly can do. This is just for me. You have to decide for you what it is to be successful. But I'm telling you that our world celebrating only achievement is really giving us a false sense of success, when we have so much. Then I've seen a huge amount of my clients are very successful in the world, PhDs, doctors, therapists, teachers, successful, but internally they are so discombobulated, they're struggling, they're with anxiety, with overwhelm themselves. And so then, is that really success? What I've learned is that the more that we gently go back and reboot the brain, reboot our system, all of a sudden there's more creativity, because when we then take the energy from the stress, from like just trying to cope, the energy will surface to be able to be more creative, which then will give you different kind of success. So for me, it's not a way that I don't look at it as we're tricking. Do you trick your computers like, okay, don't look, I'm going to download Photoshop. I'm being silly about it, right? But you get the idea. So to me, it's like, just think of it as your brain is a computer. And from that perspective, you can't trick a computer in a sense, right? You want to download a program, you download it. Don't judge it. I think that many times we've been also conditioned to think that it's like, well, it has to be done this way. So I'm going to challenge you to just take the challenge, do the 5-day challenge, and see what emerges. And if you have questions, you can email me, email us, and we'll go from there. So thank you. Thank you.